name's Naomi with Sword and Steel, and today I'm checking out the starter set Dragons of Stormwreck Isle for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. It says it's for 2 to 6 players, and that definitely seems to be accurate, though I think you'd have more fun if you had more than just your Dungeon Master and 1 player. So I would think maybe 5 players. Definitely 3 to 6 players more than 2 to 6 players, but you definitely could play it with only 2 people if you really wanted to, just to start learning how to play Dungeons & Dragons before you invite more people into the mix. So starter sets should have everything in it you need to play Dungeons & Dragons, and this one seems to be true to that concept. It has 6 dice, so if you get your own, you're not missing any. It has 6 dice. Normally Dungeons & Dragons sets have 7 dice or more, but this one has 6 dice still. The one that it doesn't have is the percentile dice, which is a d10 that has 10 to 100 on it rather than 1 to 10. It's very seldom used, and if you really wanted to get it, you'd get more dice anyway. And as a Dungeon Master, you're going to want more than 1 set of dice. And this would probably be a Dungeon Master and player thing that you got. So you're going to want to get more dice anyway, but you do have, if you share your dice with everyone, all the dice that you need to play. And we have a source of additional resources and guided instructions on dnd.wizards.com/starter, learn to play videos, how to complete your character sheet, rules explanations, and so forth. They say also to continue your journey, you can use the Essentials kit, which you should be able to find in most anywhere that sells Dungeons & Dragons. And these are some optional adventure books that you can carry, that you could purchase. They basically expand your mind and expand the area that you're working in, because Dungeons & Dragons can be as big or small a place that you can imagine. And then there's the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual, which are indeed where you want to go from there. So that is all definitely accurate. I have been a player of Dungeons & Dragons as well as a Dungeon Master of Dungeons & Dragons for many years now. And I've also played 5th edition several times, both as a player and as a Dungeon Master. Alright, so what we have in here is the starter set rulebook, and inside will be for your Dungeon Master, also for your player, but for smooth transitioning, generally the Dungeon Master will have a concept of all of the rules, and the player will have a more basic concept. So your Dungeon Master is the labor of love, really. Everyone should be able to read through this. There's nothing to the special adventure that you're doing inside this book, so everyone should read through and get an idea of what it is that you'll be doing in your Dungeons & Dragons adventures. It definitely does have everything that you need to start off. It has some example things that you can purchase when you're collecting gold, and how much it weighs, so you can get used to carrying around carrying capacities, one of the things that most people forget in actuality. Some Dungeon Masters don't even bother to keep track of it until it gets excessive. It's like, I'm sorry, you want to carry how much of that dragon over your back? No, you what's your strength? No, you're not doing it. Do you even know how to dry out a dragon hide so that you can use it properly without it rotting? No? Oh, the things that I have done. Alright, and the things that players will ask. Anyway, so inside the starter, what I really like about this little mini rule book is all of what you need is right on the front, which means that for a Dungeon Master playing in the middle of the game, you can quickly go and check out the rules as you're learning it, and the little chapters and equipment and spells and all that it's all written down. It's all really nicely taken care of. The key to playing Dungeons & Dragons well is to have all of the rules either memorized or on hand in note form at all times so that you can play the game rather than try and figure out the rules. But hey, you're beginning here. It's okay. And it's also okay if if the players surprise you with something that you never ever would have expected them to want to do, and you say, let's take a break here for a moment, go get some coffee or drinks or snacks or something like that, while I figure out how exactly the world would respond to what you just requested. Quite normal to do. You don't have to feel bad about a couple of intermissions during your sessions, and I think it will be even more exciting to the players so they can chat amongst themselves while you're trying to figure out what in the world they came up with. All right. Now that was the rulebook. Here is the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle adventure. So it's basically a first level to third level adventure using these pre-generated characters, which you will get to name yourself and choose the gender and so on. And it is a very straightforward thing. You don't have to have previous experience playing Dungeons and Dragons or being a dungeon master. Just read through this. This will open up your mind to what you can do, and also, if you're really not certain, give you some examples. This is really nicely done. I don't think you'd have any trouble. For example, it says, welcome to Dragon's Necks, and it says to the Dungeon Master, read the following text when you're ready to start. Your journey was uneventful, but the island now, visible off the bow, promises rare wonders. Seaweed shimmers in countless brilliant colors below you, and rays of sunlight defy the overcast sky to illuminate the lush grass and dark basalt rock of the island. Avoiding the rocks jutting up from the ocean, your ship makes its way toward a calm harbor on the island's north side. A large open-air temple comes into view, perched on the edge of a cliff high above you. The ship drops anchor at the mouth of the harbor, and 2 sailors row you ashore. You have plenty of time to admire the towering statue at the center of the temple, depicting a wizened man surrounded by 7 songbirds. A long path winds up the side of the cliff to the temple, dotted along the way with doors cut into the rock. The sailors set you ashore on a rickety dock, where a large rowboat is neatly tied. They point to the base of the pass and wish you good luck before they row back to the ship. Your visit to Dragon Rest begins. And then it will tell you from there where to go from that. And it tells you the backstories of the various people that your characters will interact with. For example, a kobold. There's a bunch of different kobolds ones in this one because, of course, it's dragon related, and the kobolds certainly love their dragons. And if you didn't know that, don't worry, it tells you about that too. Frub is a kobold. Frub has limitless energy and desperately needs help finding productive directions to channel it. He loves to ask questions about everything other people are doing. Mumpo is so audaciously courageous that he stole a copper piece from Runora's hoard, Runora being the leader of Dragon's Rest. He's convinced she has no idea. In brackets it says, he is wrong, but Runora finds the situation amusing and lets Mumpo continue to believe in her ignorance. I really enjoy reading through backstories because it gives you an idea of what they would do in a situation, and you can completely expand on from there so that you can use these adventures time and time again. Because you never know what one player is going to do when they come across these NPCs. Some players will find a kobold that asks about everything enjoyable, and some players will not. And whether they help you or not is really going to be dependent on how you react to them. So it also carries out these really well-designed maps, which are gridded, so you know exactly how long they are. It says 1 square equals 5 feet. So you get a very good idea of how to lay out the maps, and you can get grid paper or special designed play mats that you can draw these guys out as they're exploring the areas, and each area is described in the book, so when they reach it, you know exactly what they should see, and it gives you something to read out when they do see it. These are really, really nicely done. It explains everything to someone. I think this is one of the best ways to learn how to dungeon master rather than starting from nothing. Starting from nothing, you certainly will find your way, but use someone else's experience to your advantage. The people who wrote this knew what they were talking about, and don't let it limit you, but use the experience and open your mind to what it is that you could possibly do. Remember, your players need to have fun, and I think they will following this. And of course, at the end, it has all the creatures that you would possibly come across in this little adventure, and it describes how you can move this adventure on into future adventures, either with these characters, since they may come to love these characters, or maybe again with some other characters in the future. Now, that is the end of the box after you get to the characters. If you take out this cardboard box, you'll have to place a place to put your notebooks and more dice and stuff like that, so you can keep all of your Dungeons and Dragons stuff nice and neat in the one box that you can fit into a backpack. So here we've got 5 different sheets. I actually have 6 sheets here because they gave me 2 of the same rogue. Don't know if that's a regular thing that they'll do, giving you 1 of extra ones, but I have 2. I should have 5. I have 6. 1 is the exact same. But nah, I'm alright with it. Now my group can have 2 rogues if I want it. So it shows up here your rogue. We have a Lightfoot Halfling rogue. Background is criminal. It's chaotic good despite its background being a criminal. In a day and age where people can starve anywhere, criminal is a bit nuanced. And then so this is all the stuff that you need to know for when you're playing the adventure. The player needs to know for when you're playing the adventure. And then on the back side is the background for your character, and some of it you'll be creating all on your own. So it starts off, you fell in with the Thieves Guild called the Gilded Gallows, and so on, but here it allows you to create your own aspects of this character, so your character will be your own. And that was the rogue, and then so we've got a rogue halfling, chaotic good. We have a paladin, a human paladin, lawful good. Background is noble. And so on, chatting to all about what humans are like and what wood elves are like. This is a wood elf fighter who is neutral good. Background is folk hero. Oh, look at that pretty picture. So there's a picture on each of one. Of course, you're going to choose your gender yourself, but you get an idea of what each character might look like should you choose them to be like that. It says gaining levels. The Dungeon Master will tell you when you reach 2nd level and then 3rd level. When you reach a new level, you gain features below for that level. So very simple. You roll your hit dice and your extra hit points. You use hit dice to roll your extra hit points. Ooh! When you level up, and then you add the new hit die to the hit dice box on the sheet and add 1d10 plus 2 to your hit point maximum. 2nd level feature, 3rd level feature. Ooh, you get an action surge. Fighter, yeah. We have a high elf wizard who is a neutral good. Background is a sage. And the wizards and the clerics, which is this dwarf cleric. So you've got high elf, wood elf, human, dwarf, halfling, all the generic races that are generally played in classic Dungeons and Dragons, so that you can have a chance to play them. And easy enough to, if more than one person wants to play a cleric, I mean, yes, you could play one of each kind so that you could get a grasp of how they all play together, but of course not everyone's going to want to do that, so these are definitely easy enough to scan in and print off multiple copies. Paladin human. And when you get accustomed to it, you guys can get yourselves a player's handbook and switch up the humans and the paladins and the rogues and the halflings. Very straightforward. This is definitely a nice little starter set to start. You're going to get all the way to 3rd level. And then from there, it really gets more exciting in 5th edition after 3rd level, because you open up so many more abilities that you can do, starting to become a hero by that time. Or a nuisance, depending. And it says it is retails at $19.99 US or $25.99 Canadian. That is all I wanted to say about that. Show it off to you. Let me know what you think about that. If you had any questions about starter sets or Dungeons and Dragons in general, really, why not? Make certain to comment below. And I will catch you in the next video. Bye! So maybe I would play Human Paladin, Lawful Good, a Noble, Wood Elf Folk. I think I'd go with the Wood Elf Fighter Folk Hero. What would I name her? Amanastel. It's a name I came up with a while ago. That is what I would be calling her. Amanastel. Your parents lived in the prosperous village of Thundertree, east of the city of Neverwinter, and at the edge of the Neverwinter Wood. Now, these are real places in the Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realms campaign setting, but whether you want to ever have your characters go to them or not, it's completely up to you. Make your own. But when nearby Mount Hottenau erupted 30 years ago, your parents fled, perhaps carrying you in your infancy, depending on how old you are. Your family drifted from village to village around the region, finding work as laborers where they could. Your background shaped your character in important ways. You learned the languages of several different peoples, shown in the languages front of the sheet. Your skill proficiencies in animal handling and surviving also reflect your upbringing, working with animals and getting by in the natural world. You spent the last years in Neverwinter as a carpenter working at the city's bustling docks. That sounds actually like a pretty nice life. But it's clear to you and everyone around you that you are destined for much more. Is it? Okay. A little bit high on the pride level there. You stood up to an abusive ship captain once, so other dock workers look up to you. Someday you'll come into your own. You'll be a hero. Confidence is key, as they say. Can't be a hero unless you try to be one.